Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I'm your host, Chris West. On today's episode, we have Misha George. Me and Misha talk about how recently I broke the internet. I interviewed Danny Carey, and he opened up about Tool possibly playing the Sphere, and it kind of went viral. Not all the way viral, a little viral maybe. Misha himself made an AI video depicting Tool artwork on the Sphere, and it got over a million views. And we were both featured in Revolver magazine post and all of this madness. I think my interview was referenced hundreds of times in every kind of magazine article type deal over the internet. Vice, Rolling Stone, all mention the podcast, and we talk about it. We also talk about the movie Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, and we spend a great deal of time talking about the ethics of AI in general and some of the environmental impacts. But it's a really fun episode. If you want to know more about how I got to interview Danny Carey, this is the episode. As always, this episode is sponsored by Rockabilia.com, the official place to get your music and band merch. Use code SPIRALOUT to get 25% off. So thank you, and Spiral Out. Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I'm your host, Chris West. Today's special episode, we have Misha George. Hey, Misha. Misha, you've been in the Tool community for like ever too,
Pretty much, at least since Fear Inoculum came out. But before then, I was kind of in the shadows, if you will.
Yeah, I came around 2021, 2022, so a couple of years after. But if you're in that sphere of things, you're a well-known figure, right? I know you.
Right on.
We've met at shows, and you've done a lot of charity stuff. We've had an episode before about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah. You hit me up, and we both have had a bit of an interesting last 48 hours. You made a video, I did an interview, and they both kind of exploded.
Yeah. I mean, part of the reason I did the video was because of your interview. So, yeah. So,
Yeah.
figured I'd, reach out and talk about it.
Yeah, the video I'm talking about is you made a AI video and that shows a Tool eye, like a Cam De Leon eye over the Sphere. And if you don't know what the Sphere is, it's this gigantic venue in Las Vegas, but the entire outside is a screen. It's a big circle. During the edit, you will see the video as we're talking about it right now. But you made this video because I did an interview in which I interviewed Danny Carey, the drummer of Tool, and he mentioned that Tool was, at the very least, considering the option of playing the Sphere, right?
Yep. It was a great interview, man. Congrats on
it was very quick.
All that. I'm definitely interested in hearing more about how that came to be, and just kind of being there for the drum, whatever it was, the drum march in the street as well. Did that all kind of coincide together?
Yeah. No, it was all one night. But before I get to that night, the crazy thing that had happened was because of the interview that I did, the internet broke for a couple of days.
For Tool fans, anyway, yeah.
Yeah, for Tool fans, because it was the first time publicly anybody in Tool had even mentioned the Sphere at all. And him even saying that they were maybe kind of thinking about it, who knows, that was enough for the internet to latch on and for it to go viral, as they say. Every major music source, I think, except for Rolling Stone, did some type of clickbaity post about it.
Basically.
Spin. And you made a video, a very cool looking video of a Tool eye on the Sphere, and the Revolver magazine reposted it, right? And it was nice of them. They tagged me, they tagged
Mhm.
you, they tagged
Mhm.
Tool. But between your original post and the Revolver post, it's gotten over 1 million views. And we can get into that later. But you say you're curious about that night. I've not spoken about it or talked about it. I mean, I did make a whole video. I don't know if you saw the other video. I do a travel show now. Along with this podcast, I've been working on a travel
What's it
show.
called?
It's called This Movie Tastes Like
Okay.
Music. So pretty much I just travel around. I end up in like film locations or just places. I try the food, I talk about music, I talk about food, I talk about movies, and I try to film it cinematically. And I literally only had one episode out of that when all of this happened.
Okay.
But so I'd been working on that show, and my friend who does podcasting, he's also a film critic. His name's David Rosen. He does the Piecing It Together podcast. I give him 100% of the credit of why I was there. He hit me up at about 3:30 in the afternoon. I think whatever that Friday was. I think it was like the 7th or the 8th. And he said, "Hey, I know you're really into Tool. I'm going to go to this movie event for this movie. Good luck, have fun, don't die. Uh, I heard Danny Carey from Tool is going to be there. Uh, my wife can't go. Do you want to go?" And again, it's 3:30. Is like you have to be there by 6. And I went, "Fucking yeah, I'll be there." And my first thought was, I probably won't get any actual time with Danny Carey. Again, I've been to a a dozen VIP events. I've been to a bunch of Tool events, yada yada yada. You know, if anything, I thought he'd walk by, maybe say hello. I had zero idea what was going to happen this night. But they're like, "Hey, we're going to go to this restaurant. We're going to eat food. Then he's going to do some thing on Fremont Street, and then we're going to have like an after party where the Crystal Method is going to play." I said, "All in all, that sounds awesome. Free food. I'll get to see Danny Carey do some drumming, apparently, and I'll get to see the Crystal Method play some DJ stuff. Hell yeah, I'm in."
Right on.
And I thought, this is a perfect opportunity again to film another episode of my
Mhm.
travel show. Again, because it's movies, music, and food, and I'm going to eat. It's for an event about a movie, and Danny Carey and the Crystal Method are going to be there. I'm hitting all
Perfect.
three. You know, an open mind. Again, been to many Tool events. I was like, I'm not going to get my hopes up in any way. And even if I do, I've met Danny Carey before, very briefly. Uh, I'm not going to mention it. I'm not going to fanboy out. I'm just going to be there as press because it was a press event, right? All the people that were invited were film critics, mostly Vegas influencers, stuff like that. No, this wasn't a fan event of any kind. So I didn't want to stand out. I mean, I made a conscious thing like, don't wear a Tool shirt. You know, this isn't a
Right.
Tool concert or anything of that. So, anyways, show up. I'm eating. You know, Danny Carey walks in, sitting right across from me, and I'm like, oh shit, this is not like what I'm used to. Like he's right there. And again, apparently I'm press. I have I'm supposed to pay attention, film things. I'm here on behalf of another friend's podcast. I don't want to mess anything up. So again, just keep it cool. But in somewhere in my brain, I'm like, fuck, man, Danny Carey's eating right across from me. And I don't want to sound dumb either. So I'm not going to make conversation that you know, don't know anything about. Again, you can't just walk up to him and be like, "So you working on a new album? Like, what's new music like?" Like, yada. You know what I mean? That's what normal fans would do. So I had to make a conscious effort to just like, okay, don't do that. So the night goes on again. There's other industry people. There's Joe Cartman, who did a song with Danny for this movie. I talked to about music and stuff for a while. And then my first interaction with Danny, and I think this is why the interview happened later. He comes up. I started asking him about Moog synthesizers. You know, it's the machine he has behind his drum set that he tinkers with during Chocolate Chip Trip. So I start talking to him about Moog synthesizers. I bring up some old bands. I bring up a couple mutual friends. We just start chit chatting, me and him, chopping it up like two normal people for like a good 20 some odd minutes while they're getting ready for him to go do whatever he's got to do. And it very interesting. You know, again, he was a super nice guy. You know, talking to each other by name. Hey, Danny. Hey, Chris. Yada yada yada. Again, not fanboying out in any way, and just kind of going with the flow, right? So then we go down the street to Fremont Street Experience, and this high school band, the Las Vegas Legacy High School marching band, is there, and they're like, "Well, he's gonna drum with them." Cool. Is there like a film crew? Is there like something? Nope. It's just like we have a camera guy. It's just like kind of like a an art installation type deal, right? It's just a thing that's going to happen. I'm like, okay, well, I got to film it. So I pull out my phone, and again, I'm standing right next to the man the whole time. The whole time I'm standing next to Danny Carey. They put a drum on him. He starts drumming away, and I'm just walking next to him as he's drumming down the street for like 10 minutes. And again, they're drumming to a specific composition done for this movie. And it's fucking wild.
You got some great footage, yeah, man. It looked great. It seemed a lot more
Yeah, and
organized than just kind of showing up and doing that. But yeah,
I'm sure it was on the back end, but like they had to get the band there. I had nothing to do with that. You know, I wasn't there to help set up. I wasn't there to like I was just there as like an invitee to watch, you know. And again, they had like people filming, but it didn't look like they had like a crazy camera crew. There were a couple of like cops there for security, but nothing
Mhm.
major. You know what I mean? There wasn't like crowds of police or anything. And again, it wasn't publicly, it wasn't out there. It wasn't like on Tool's Instagram. It wasn't on Danny Carey's Instagram. Like, hey, show up downtown to watch
Mhm.
me drum or anything. It's completely out of the blue. So like, I don't think anybody really knew what was going on or like who he was in the moment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So there wasn't like people rushing up to him. Again, I was probably the biggest Tool fan there. Like
Mhm.
already there. So yeah, I film him. We get he gets done drumming. He literally like hands me the drum, like, you carry this
Hell yeah.
now. I'm like, all right. I put it on and I like give it a couple taps. And there's another guy that was working the event who was like, hey, I gotta take that from you. Sure,
Mhm.
here you go. We end up at this bar called Cheap Trick or Cheap Shot. And again, it's open bar, everybody's drinking and eating. I don't think he was drinking. And again, I don't really drink either, but the Crystal Method was offering interviews. Like, hey, anybody want to talk about the music and movie of this? You know, they'll be in the back. And nobody, like one other person was like, yeah, like wanted to do an interview. And this was a bar full of film critics and internet
Wow.
influencers, and not one, nobody. It was like one other dude said yes, and me again. I was invited through somebody else, so I'm like, fuck yeah, like I'll interview anybody. Like I'll be next. And I didn't know I was going to have this opportunity, so all I had was my phone. Like I have professional camera equipment, I have professional mics. I
Mhm.
had none of this. You know, I did not think this was going to happen. And after I interviewed the Scott Kirkland from Crystal Method, the lady that was setting up the interviews, she was like, "Hey, you know, that was cool, yada yada yada." I'm like, "Yeah, that was great. What about Danny Carey? Like, does he
Mhm.
want to do an interview?" And she was like, "I don't know. I'll ask him." And she walked over and she was like, "Hey, would you like to do a few minutes with this guy?" I don't know what she said, but he like looked over at me, saw it was me, and was like, "Yeah." And there was like this little back room in the bar, and we went in there, and my buddy held the phone and there's the interview. 8 minutes of him talking about movies and music and then, I asked him one question about Tool being cinematic, and then he mentions the Sphere and new music, and I knew immediately when he said new music and Sphere, I was like, that hasn't been
Right.
said publicly. So I kind of started freaking out a little bit. I was like, oh shit. I kind of wanted to, I was like, is he going to tell me to hey, don't use that? Because if he did, I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? He was like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. I would have edited it out. I would have not put it out. So he didn't.
I mean, I remember whenever we
And
did Vegas, was it 2024? Like, I remember afterwards seeing some kind of news within the groups. I think it was coming from Adam's brother that they had visited the Spear and that, the possibility was out there. But yeah, that was cool to hear kind of Danny. I didn't know that Danny had even gone with them to check it out.
yeah. And he didn't say when
Uh,
he toured it. He just said that they had done a tour of the Sphere and were thinking about it, and that he personally thought that the band would be a great fit. And again, if you know anything about the Sphere, I think they would honestly be the first band to come to mind of visuals, who would be great. Again, we are in that universe, right?
I
So
mean, I think there's a
of
lot
course
of
that
people out there that aren't even necessarily Tool fans that make the connection. Okay, this would be the perfect band for this venue, and let alone within this animation I did, lots and lots of people. That's like probably the number one comment from everybody is Tool and Sphere were made for each other.
yeah, we talked for 8 minutes. He was really, really nice. And then again, the rest of the night I just hung out with him and his group. And it was the three guys that made the song for Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, Joe Cartman and the guy from Pick Me Love Circus. His name is spacing me at the moment, but they all worked on the song and were there to promote that. And I just stood around, we talked about music. I asked Danny Carey about playing um, Ozzy's last show. We talked about the tour of Japan and the Pacific Rim tour. People would come up, take pictures with him. It was funny because I was inadvertently everyone's camera guy that night because I'm sitting there, I'm talking to him. And again, I know about this person. I think I surprised him about the knowledge I have of Tool, which again, if you know anything about me, you do. Of course, I have an extensive Tool knowledge, but I didn't want to be that guy in that space. So there would be people coming up and asking him, "Oh, you remember this show and this tour? And can I get a picture?" And randomly throughout the night, and I would just be like, "I'll take it." I'll take the picture. So I was kind of that guy for the night. And again, just trying trying not to be anything other than me as a person and him as a person. You know what I mean? I wasn't we talked about the baked potato a little bit. We talked about music. We talked about this and that, movies, just a normal conversation you would have in this environment like
Mhm.
anybody else, right? And it was great. It was super cool.
You guys look so comfortable together on. I guess it was a couch that you did the interview or whatever, but he seemed very comfortable with you. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was great. Again, I think it's because before that we had chatted a few times before that about things he was, again, Moog synthesizers. We talked about just drums in general. I brought up some I have issues with understanding what the hell 7/8 timing is. You
You
know
and
what
me
I mean?
both.
Like, yeah, keeping it away from Tool. But again, I know who this person is. I don't know his interests all around. You know what I mean? Brought up college basketball, just chit chat, man. That's about all I could say. So by the time that lady asked him, "Oh, would you like to do an interview with this guy?" And again, you have one of the biggest drummers in music a room full of press. Nobody asked him to do an
Was other
interview
parts of
except
the
for me.
film crew there at all?
Yeah, no,
Is
everybody,
it is it
everybody that.
Sam Rockwell? Is that the filmmaker?
Oh no, no,
Okay,
not any of
okay.
the actors. This was like is a strict. The event was strictly for like promoting the movie and promoting the
Uh-huh.
song for the movie, and then the Crystal Method had done like a curated, I don't know, playlist
Mm,
for the movie as well. But from my knowledge, all the people that were invited had received screeners for the movie, and they had
mhm,
all seen the movie already. So it was kind of like, and we can get into that a little bit, which is kind of interesting. They were shown the movie, then invited to this event, and I guess are encouraged to, talk about the movie online, talk about the movie like on their YouTube channels, talk about the movies in their podcasts, and yada yada yada. And again, there was a handful of, you know, talented musicians and, famous people there. Prime time to ask a few questions to get, and maybe this is the disconnect for me and what people want to see online now, or maybe not. But yeah, nobody. The most surprising thing was there wasn't a line of
mhm.
people trying to talk to him. They just didn't know who he was, or didn't care.
Whenever you
But
posted the interview, I can't remember. Was that just on your Spiral Out channel? I think.
yes, again, I don't know what this says about me as a person, but once the interview was done, I knew what I had. So I knew he said Sphere and new music, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll get a few hundred views, but like, I definitely want to come across as professional. So I like redid my website. Like organized my YouTube page. I made sure everything was like a cohesive thing so that if, and this is a big if. Again, the most views I have on any one video, I think that took 3 years. It's like 1,000 views. You know what I mean? And I'm not the leading voice in rock music by any means, or like, I have my niche
Mhm,
with our community. You know what I mean? But I at least, if it was going to get a lot of views, I wanted to be perceived as professional, which I think that I am. So I made it a point to make sure shit was organized on that end. You know what I mean? So I posted it to my YouTube, and then I made a couple of clips using like Opus Clip. I don't know if you know what that is. It takes your video and it chops it up into, bite-sized pieces,
okay.
and it adds captions. And then you can send it out to different social media platforms all at once. So it chopped up, again, I think it's like a 19-second clip of him being like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're thinking about playing the Sphere, doing a stint at the Sphere, and after we want to put out an album in 2027. As long as it took me to say that, it was as long as the video clip was. And I put that out, and for the first 2 days, it was like, "Oh, you got a couple hundred views, you got a bunch of people commenting, like, it's cool." But the 3rd day is when it really exploded. That was not yesterday, but the day before. It was like a Sunday, I think. Saturday or Sunday. Like, it's just my feed, like, first it was like Spin Magazine, then Metal Injection, then this and this and this, and then your video and Revolver and yada, 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 and it's just like my entire social media feed on multiple
Same,
platforms
yeah.
is.
And I saw your comment in one of the groups that, yeah, sorry guys, which made me laugh,
Yeah,
because yeah, just every single other post was someone sharing it.
it's cool playing with people. People have hit me up like, "Oh, you're gonna be famous now." It's like, not really. Like, I gained, like, a few more followers, a few more subscribers, nothing crazy. I'm not now considered anything other than what I already was, which is, a DIY podcast guy,
Well,
you know?
fame or not, I'm sure there's, plenty of fans, including myself, that are glad that, everything happened the way it did. And, definitely the Tool universe has, you're helping guide it along here, man.
Yeah, it's a thing. I don't know. People have mentioned that too. They're like, "Oh, it's great that it was you," which I guess I understand and don't understand because they're I don't know. They're bound to say it to
Yeah,
somebody. It
right.
just so happened to
And
say it
I've
to me.
seen, I've
I mean,
seen
like,
enough times, this kind of happened with all the magazines, kind of, one little bit of news, and they're clickbaiting. I can't remember the last one, like Maynard and when Tool played in Florida, and Maynard cross dressed, and he's making a statement, and then
yeah,
the
yeah,
next day he's like, "No, I'm not." But I think this was, yeah, by far the most interesting kind of one that I've seen so far, especially the fact that knowing the person who did the interview and how, especially within all the Tool groups, how much it's the Tool fan community is a community in itself, and then there's the online community. It's cool to see. It's cool to see when fans we know kind of have some kind of whatever you want to call it dent or effect. We definitely saw with, I think, Mike Gamble, you know becoming one of the artists.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big one. He was a fan just like us, and now he's got
It's
7
crazy.
Tool posters.
This this is my
Yeah.
pride and joy here. I can't afford many doodles, but I had to have at least one of his. It's rad, and even before all that happened, like him and I would be chatting all the time online, and like he was one of the biggest online
Man,
presences as far as fans go. Like every single post that I would be reacting to, I'd see that he was already been there reacting to it. It's like, oh man, it's awesome. But again, just the tight knit community, especially on, it's cool to see something like this blow up.
yeah, yeah, and it's but like you said, when I did a post the next day where I was like, "My bad," because again, I knew that every person that is in that Tool group, their feed is just
Mhm.
Tool Sphere, and even my local news station, 8 News Now in
Oh
Las
yeah, that's
Vegas,
cool.
did Tool playing the Sphere, and, it's an interesting thing. Again, they all it's like once one of them says it, then they
Mhm.
all just kinda, like, latched on, and yeah, no, there were people doing exactly what we're doing right now, like, it's an odd thing when you talk to somebody about something, and then other people talk about you talking about that thing with somebody. You're like, I it was literally just 8 minutes out of my life that now again, there's a guy, I forget, the Loaded Radio or something like that, made like a 5-minute video. He like took, a few sentences out of my interview and made an entire 5-minute video of Tool in the Sphere, again, quoting the podcast and whatnot. And it's an interesting thing, like the online beast, I guess.
Well, the magazine I typically associate Tool with the most would be Revolver, because they cover them so much,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think that was initially like, I don't know if they had shared anything. It was kind of basically everybody else. I think maybe I had seen a couple of AI or photoshopped, things of like the Sphere, and I was already like, I've been, messing with AI for years and been getting more into video the past couple months here, after having especially a few viral hits online myself with other stuff. But keep wanting to do something Tool related, and then this happened, and it's just like, let me try to put something together here. And
How so, that's the question. So you put like a Cam De Leon eye and the Sphere. Is it completely 100% AI? Like AI created the Sphere, the street, the moving cars, the eye, like You have to like input
I did input
pictures.
pictures. My workflow is kind of different with every each video, but with this one, yeah, used pictures of the sphere, pictures of the eye. Typically, I do try to ask for artist permissions before I do anything with their work AI, but I just, wasn't necessarily going to ask Cam's permission for this. And so I was just like, I'm just going to make an exception in this case. Let me go ahead and do something that, I imagine because of the history with the band and the artist that they probably would never do something like this in real life. So this is, let me just kind of do something fan based that people would want to see that they probably never will see in real life. So I used some pictures, but everything in the final video is AI generated. It's all
What
Mid-Journey.
program did you use?
I use
Okay.
different tools for different videos, but yeah, just kind of stuck to Mid-Journey with this with the image and video animation, and happy with what I did, and
Yeah, it
didn't
was clean.
necessarily expect to get the reaction that it did. I've had a couple of big tool post in the past with just animations that I've done, non AI animations, kind of animating posters and
Yeah,
whatnot. And I've probably had, I think, the most 200,000 views online for the poster art. But yeah, right now we're at, I think over 1 million views between Instagram and TikTok. But again, lots of people just kind of you know, there's a big reaction to just the news itself, the tool be at the sphere, and then the actual visual of the eye on the sphere. I think there's been a pretty, like you said, last 48 hours has been a lot of reaction here.
yeah. And again, which in my opinion, again, is ironic to the whole story in general, which none of this would happen if it wasn't for the movie Good Luck,
Absolutely.
Have Fun, Don't Die. And this movie, it's directed by Gore Verbinski, starring Sam Rockwell, is about a guy who goes back in time to find this very specific ragtag team to stop AI from ruining the world. Did you
I don't think I did. I think I
did you not know
read
that?
something real quick about it, but no, I don't think I got that takeaway.
Yeah, no, it's about ruining the world and then kind of turning people into zombies and then them having to go to like a very specific point in time and get this like very specific team together of like the most random people to save the earth from being
It's
zombies
hilarious.
pretty much caused
Right
by
on.
AI. Which again, after your video coming out, I was not
Mm.
lost on me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, again, just this movie, Tool, Sphere, AI, like it's just kind of all got wrapped up into the same thing, and we don't have to spend too much time on it. But as a guy that works in AI, there, like you said, there are some mixed reviews on the ethics of AI. You know, whether that be like how the art is generated to environmental impacts on from using AI, and I'm wondering if I could get your
Absolutely.
opinion on maybe one or two of those things because the most AI at this point, I spent some time with Midjourney when it first came out, when it was in beta, and just for the sheer nature of what I do and talk about, I talk to artists is mainly what I do on this podcast. Like I was working with the art at one point in Midjourney, and then, you know, it's kind of hard for me to talk to artists, struggling working artists that are making their money and then also at the same time have logos made by
Right.
AI. So for my own reasons, I had to stray away from that. The art I use now is strictly from a very specific tool artist. Yeah. So I've strictly tried to use Ben Conlin's artwork that he gave to me for free. Whether or not he did that to get me to stop using AI is
No, yeah, that's right.
I don't know,
That is a
but
cool image, and that's very cool of him to do that.
yeah, yeah, and he did it for free, and we've chit chatted, here and there. He's a really good guy. But so again, the first one is, what again before I get into the questions, even during the interview, I asked Danny about AI, and he had a very specific answer. It's a useful tool. It's cool as long as the person using it is saying it's AI. And I think for me, this is the harder part, is giving credit to the artists that AI is taking from. I think that is the big hard one, is how do you give credit to what AI is taking from. So, I don't know. Again, you've been working with AI for years. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the ethics of it, and how you think
Right
about
on.
it, and
Yeah, I mean, I've
whatnot.
been using Midjourney since like Midjourney 2, and mostly was just kind of messing around with images for a few years. And at some point, I stepped away, just kind of took a break. And I think it was last year kind of noticed a shift with the videos starting to get better. And I definitely had an interest in doing something. And then Say Santa happened, and I had made a music video just kind of on my own using a Runway and Midjourney together. I made a music video of the Primus song "Pablo's Hippos" from that got released with the Say Santa tour. Yeah, and I actually tried to see if Primus would be interested in kind of making it not necessarily official, but some kind of affiliation. Uh, have their blessing before I posted it online. The people that I kind of knew in the Primus camp uh, didn't think that they'd really be that interested. And so I was just like, all right, let me go ahead and just do it on my own. And it got, semi, the biggest reaction I've had on YouTube ever, like 200,000 views. And a lot of mixed reaction from fans because it was also a song that Maynard sings on. And so I had, AI likenesses of the characters, Maynard and Les and whatnot, Billy Howardell in there as well. And I'd say probably 80% of the comments were, people kind of just saying, cool song, but screw AI, man. And the irony of that is it's all those comments and attention that makes it go even more viral, I think. So I was just like, okay,
Sure.
thanks. Yeah, that was just kind of really the main thing I did. And I think I stepped away from it again for a while. And I got actually approached by a band last year to do a music video using AI. And it was a really cool experience. And the band was happy with it, but I can't talk too much about it because I think they're um, uh, because of AI backlash, their management agency wasn't ready to put it out there, so it's kind of sitting on a shelf now. um, that's kind of the where it seems like we're at. The technology is good enough to have some quality, in my opinion, quality videos and productions, but just the ethical backlash from a lot of people still, I think, is gonna, continue to have that rift for now anyway. Until, I mean, I feel like it's not going away. It's gonna not all the companies are gonna be around forever because
So what do you think about it personally? Again, somebody who's using it and is potentially making money, yeah, and getting jobs from it. Do you wrestle with the, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
ethics
I
of it
think
at
that's the
all?
big
Like,
reason why I'd stepped away for a while is because of just, as much fun as I was having with it, being able to produce whether it's images or videos that I wouldn't otherwise really be able to do with my artistic level of, painting and or video production. I was just having fun with it. And but at the same time I do see why people would be upset with something that they've made being copied and then sold for money, whether it's people intentionally doing so, ripping off an artist, or not even necessarily intending to do so. So I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. But as a professional video editor, I mean, there's this whole argument that it's gonna, take away everyone's job. Like for me, I think that that's already happened. Like I haven't had work as a video editor in over a year because that's just how bad the job market is right now for us. And I know a lot of other videos editors who are, feel the same way. They're hurting financially. And so for, me to be able to actually, do something creative that I get paid for, that I really tried my hardest to not steal from other people, at least consciously. I guess ultimately it's going to scrape the internet one way or another. So you can't really do much about it. But I think the more that I can try to make everything that I do as original as possible, that is where I stand ethically. I'm not going to starve myself by not doing something that I could be doing. But I also, I understand that there's a lot of like I would love to start animating, tool posters using AI tools, but I know that probably a majority of the artists would not be completely okay with that. With the poster animations that I've done using non-AI tools, like even some artists don't seem crazy about me doing that with their work.
What you don't have to say which artists or which dual posters. What was their non? What was their reaction? The
To the
negative
AI,
ones
or
or not
you
so
mean
cool
the
ones?
non-AI?
Oh, no, just you animating.
I don't know if I've ever really had anyone say, "Hey, man, not, I'm not loving that," or whatever. But I know that I've like messed with like some color scheme before, and one of the artists is like, "Yeah, that's not how that image looks. So, can you just kind of go back to the original colors, please?" So something like that. But I usually kind of notice it's the difference between if there's a reaction from the artist, a positive reaction, or if there's no reaction at all. I kind of just uh, not that they feel negatively about it, but they're just kind of like
Let it
whatever.
go.
Same here.
Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold too. Uh,
Yep.
it's that weather right now. There's also like, again, this is something that is, I don't want to say new to me, but not like the the conversation about AI and art. It's scraping the internet has been around since day one. What's now coming out though is a little bit more of the
Hmm.
environmental impact that uh, you know. And I've done a little research, and there's mixed things. It is true that these
Data centers.
what are they called? Yeah, these data centers
Yeah.
take up a crazy amount of water and resources in these neighborhoods that they're in, and it's just again I get the tough spot that you as a editor are in, meaning that you had a niche or a place, and
Hmm.
that place is shrinking, and you're adapting. You know,
Yeah.
you're
I don't
you got to make
love
money.
the
You got to
environmental
live.
impact that it does have, and I really hope that they're able to find better ways to not use so much water and resources for this. And I think the idea of more and more people using it and data centers only getting bigger and using more resources is a little scary, even to me as someone who uses it and who is, an advocate of it, regardless of those effects that it has. Again, yeah, it's back and forth. I've been on the fence for a long time using it, and uh,
Yeah,
I it sucks that
I'm in the same. Yeah, it does suck because I am in the same boat as you. I have I use AI. I don't use it so much as like I said in for making images or videos, but I use it in you know creating questions for guests, creating timelines, doing outlines, gathering thoughts. I use it in a more admin way quite regularly.
Mhm.
Again, I know people that use it as a therapist. I know people that use it just almost like a calendar or a life coach even. And there are definitely, useful things for this. I often think about what's the environmental impact of when they found fossil fuels could be, used in cars. Again, now we have a global warming, but, you know, where it's hard because there is a responsibility in the individual, but there is a bigger responsibility in the manufacturer and administrations all over the world to,
Yeah,
be
and
able to put these
regulated
things
once
out
they're out there. I
safely.
mean, I
There
think
is
like with the whole meta trials going on right now, the social media trials, I mean,
yeah,
companies are gonna try to make as much money as they possibly can until it's regulated, and hopefully we will start regulating them
and that's
more.
the real issue.
But it seems like lately it's
Yeah.
been the opposite as far as the environmental concerns, anyway.
Well, again, there is no incentive to do it safely, to do it with environment and the well-being of the population in
Yeah,
mind. Like it's like the Wild West. They just do whatever they want, regardless of how it hurts people. Again, the odd part, maybe not odd, but because I understand it, but the weird part is they're not going the people that are commenting on your AI video aren't, the ones that are like, "Oh, fuck AI." They're not going on, the administration's Facebook page and being like,
yeah,
"Hey, regulate AI." I mean, there are people doing that, but if you're going to take the time to write on Misha and mine's post that we suck because this video got a bunch of views for AI, maybe take an extra 30 seconds and write your congressperson or write you know like, how long does it take to send an email now? I mean, all this stuff is public information, but again, you're right. It's an interesting time. And again, this whole last week has been one of the weirdest, again, just in general weird. Again, how it all is like weirdly interconnected from movies, AI, tool, art, blah, 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 internet. It's like a microcosm thing that has happened that is a metaphor for the entire world is going through right now. This movie is about AI and Dan Carey talks about AI, talks about the sphere, and you make an AI video and it explodes and every music source picks it up. And there are these trials about how the internet is, getting people addicted to clickbait. And you know what I mean? There's this essence going on right now that is fucking weird.
regarding what Danny said about AI, I believe it was that, it should be clearly labeled as such. I mean, I completely agree with him. I do try to make sure that everything I do is labeled AI so that people do clearly know it. And whether or not, regardless of an artist that maybe inspired the AI work getting credited, there's just, I think, the idea of, people not knowing uh, the difference between AI and reality at first glance, especially online, and it can be really confusing. I find myself confused by at least one video every single day. Is like, is that real?
Sure. And it's the weird stuff too. There was ones of these like dogs videos where I mean, it took a good minute where I was like, that's not real. But it was indistinguishable. And it was just, again, it's not like it was like a big production. It was like phone footage of dogs
Mhm.
like picking their own owners. Cute concept. And you're watching it like, that is really
I've
cute.
seen those videos and
Like,
I
I
didn't
wonder
know
who's
they were
no, it's
AI until you're
AI.
telling me right
Fuck.
now.
Like, yeah. And it's just it's lately again, that's I think part of the disappointing part is again with stuff like this where you're like, man, that was super cute. And I wish what's not real. Fuck. Like you can't trust the trust in,
Mhm.
you know,
And
reality is fading. We 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 always knew that things on the internet weren't real, but now but we used to be able to tell. what was real and
definitely.
what was not real. And now it's getting harder and
And
harder
some are, more
to even
obvious than others,
decipher that. Again, if you
but
were to,
yeah, it's
yeah,
for sure.
if you were to put out your Sphere video 5 years ago, people would, I don't think,
Mm.
have any like they would just think it's real. They would just been like, "Oh shit, missed it. I
And
missed them
even
putting
though I
Tool's eye on
did
the
clearly
Sphere."
label
You
the
know,
video as AI, and in the caption I explained, "Hey, yes, this is made with AI." I mean, there are still people in the comments like, "Whoa, wait, I thought this was totally real for a second." And people who are reacting to
yeah.
the news of Tool at the Sphere itself, kind of, is this real? Is this happening? And
Oh yeah, I think over half the
yeah,
comments I saw were just like, "I'll believe when I see it," and which, and if you know anything about the band, is the correct statement. They are known to say one thing and do another. They have a whole April Fool's thing. They have, it took them 13 years to come out with an album, and I think for the last 5 years before it came out, they were like, "Yeah, next year it's coming out," or you know. So they again, it's just all in this weird spaghetti mixture of stuff that for some reason fits together, but I'm
same.
having a hard time articulating.
Yeah,
It's just weird. It's just weird. But no, I'm glad because again, I see that your profile you know is exploded. I hope you're you know doing well with things that you're doing. You've had some cool political stuff I've seen, I've paid attention to, that I think is really cool. Fuck man, people got to eat, and the feeling that I have about AI, and people say like, oh, it's going to take people's jobs. I'm sure you're right, it has, but I think there's always going to be a market for the real thing. You know, those videos have recently came out where it's like Wolverine fighting Superman, or the Hulk, or Captain America fighting Batman, and Disney is
hmm
putting out a cease and desist order to this specific AI company. And though those videos are cool, like I don't think it's a substitution for the real thing. I think we will always need actual creative people. We will always want real actors. We will always want real ideas. And, I think one of the reasons the movie industry is failing is because a lot of people are relying
right.
on AI to write scripts, and they are not that good, you know? And even to the credit of Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And this movie was released last Friday, when I released the interview, and to very limited amount of screens. And it is now, I think, tripled in the amount of,
Wow,
it's like the biggest independent
cool.
movie in the last 5 years in one weekend. So it has exploded in its own right. And now is like getting a more major release
Very
in
cool.
its second week of release. So yeah, yeah, good on them. And again, people want original, real stuff.
Yep.
And we also want tools that help us be
Yeah,
creative.
I
You know what I
don't know
mean?
if I'm
There
frozen
is a
or not
balance.
here, but okay. Um, I mean, I've been
You're good.
tinkering around with, aside from the social media posts and the music video stuff, I've been working on a couple of short films using AI. One that I released, and it's gotten, a few awards from different festivals. It's just kind of like a 3-minute short. Yeah, yeah, right. It's supposed to be a
You in space
trilogy, and
and dreaming and
I've actually finished part three, but I'm struggling with part two. And then there's another film that I did completely separate from that I've just submitted to a festival. A lot of it's just kind of wanting to practice with these tools and get better. And every week there's new tools and new updates to kind of, uh, you know, that are changing the game. And for the most part, I've been just kind of sticking to a couple of tools that I like the most. And uh, I would love to continue to make films with it, but at the same time, yeah, I would love to work with real people, whether it's real actors making AI hybrid film, which is real actors with AI
Well,
involved.
I think Darren Aronofsky
I
just
saw the
released like
trailer,
a full length
the
AI movie.
revolutionary documentary.
I don't know if you heard about it.
It did not look very good.
Yeah. No. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's a thing that exists now. You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere. So we have, again, I don't want to sound like shitty or pretentious because I don't make my money off of art. You know, I'm sure somebody can do a better AI'd version of this interview, but I don't know. I tend to have the thought of things like this where it's like you
Yeah.
gotta adapt, and it's like you said, also got to be regulated. And you know, I also think artists need to have faith in consumers that they want the real thing. You know, I don't want a Tool poster that's AI'd. And again, there was some controversy in one of them that whether or not it was AI or not. And you know, I don't want a Tool poster that's completely AI. I want an artist that
Yep.
you know
Absolutely.
hard work into it, and you know what I'm saying. Like, so again, I think artists have to trust their
Yeah.
consumers, and
I think
that we
tool
want
artist
them to
Chet
exist as well.
Zar had said in one of his podcasts that the idea that the more AI surrounds us, the more special actual art is going to be, whether it's owning an actual painting or possessing the tools to create it.
It was a good talk. I think it was really AI, and again, it was fun to talk about the interview and whatnot, and people can have a little bit more idea how a random ass guy like me got to sit in a room with Danny Carey. Really is just luck and showing up, and then opening your mouth when you know nobody else is. But
Absolutely.
Misha, you are on Instagram at Misha George. You can check out all his cool stuff. You know, if you want something edited, hit up Misha, and
Hit me up.
well, that's kind of it. Anything else, Misha, you got going on? You want to plug away?
Not really. I mean, just, regardless of what happens with, Tool and the Sphere, hopefully we'll all be able to see that one day happen. But, until then, I don't know. Just hopefully we'll get some new music, and whether or not it's next year, who knows? But
We're just gonna keep listening and waiting like we have for years.
yeah, I mean, we've gone 13 years before. We can do it again if we have to.
One thing I have heard from Tool is that after that Ozzy's last show, I've heard that it's kind of like kicked them into gear a little bit. You know, you only have a specific amount of time, and
Yeah.
you know, again, I'm not saying that I would like them to rush anything, but you know, fucking, they could fart in the snare drum. I'd fucking buy it. I'm sure. I'm just saying.
I think they have done that, or they've at least done the dong gong.
You're right, but nonetheless, Misha, thank you for coming and talking to me, and you know, I appreciate you as a person, and look forward to seeing you the next time in LA at a show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, and likewise. See you soon, man.
Spiral Out Podcast is produced by me, your host, Chris West, edited by me, researched by me. Everything is pretty much just done by me. Go to our website, spiraloutpod.podbean.com. Follow us on Instagram at spiral_out_pod. Facebook, Spiral Out Podcast. And again, if you want to see some of the images associated with this episode, click the link in the show notes and it'll take you there. Again, thank you for listening. Spiral Out. Pod dismissed. Wait, that's another show.